see?
Asians,
And where are they at?
Philly,
Philly? I don't see anything, Mom. I don't see anything. You see him? I don't see anything. Are they making you happy?
yes,
Yeah? That's good. How many? Four? Four?
This is the scariest video on TikTok. So the video is just that trend where you play a scary audio and then you trap someone in a room and record the reaction. Now normally in these videos they'll have like a fake ghost effect, but this one's a little different because it has probably the creepiest thing I've ever seen in a TikTok, and that is this woman. She just stands there and stares the entire time, like she barely moves at all. She's so still the whole time, people are debating whether or not she's even real. Now looking deeper into the account, the woman seems to just be this lady, but they also post a lot of paranormal videos about things that happen in their house, like pictures moving on their own and creepy stuff like that. So maybe this lady is really just a ghost, but I'll let y'all decide that.
I woke up and I flipped my pillow over and it was hot. One day, I checked my phone and I didn't have Wi-Fi. I farted and somebody said, I can't even say it with a straight face. I farted and somebody said, that smelled. I live alone. Even the ghosts were like, get the fuck out of here. One time, I was in the living room and my mom came in and said, los frijoles. And I don't know how I'm alive today. One time, my dad said, peace out and left. Same. One time, I went to get pizza, but when I opened the pizza box, it was empty. The horror. One time, my mom said, no McDonald's. It was painful. You got McDonald's money? If you're listening to this story and your dog or your cat or your pet is next to you, go to another room. Go to another room. Do it. Just do it. Now, don't say I didn't warn you if shit gets weird and maybe your dog starts talking to you. Anyway, if your pet is still here, hi, how you doing? This guy says that he has only shared this story with a couple of people because when he has shared it, people think that he's lying, it's made up, or that maybe he just imagined things. The reason why he's also very comfortable sharing the story is because he has started hearing other stories from people who have experienced similar things, so get ready for this. This guy says that he got home from work very tired. However, his dog Zeus was super excited to see him, started jumping up and down, which was kind of Zeus's sign saying, hey, take me out for a walk. He admits that he didn't have the energy to take him out, but he did because he cared about his dog's health and he took him to a dog park. He says that Zeus is very well behaved, so he doesn't have a problem getting him off the leash and letting him run around. He has never attacked a kid or a person, nothing of that sort, so that's why he's very comfortable letting him loose. Now he's like, please don't judge me. I know I shouldn't let him off the leash, but I promise I'm responsible. I bring doggy bags. Zeus listens when I tell him to come. He has never been aggressive, so, you know, again, he trusts Zeus. So while Zeus was playing and running, he went to go sit at a bench, and he said that he notices that every time Zeus would run, he would look back, find him, and be like, okay, he's still here. Goes back to play, he would stop, make sure that he was still sitting at that bench just waiting for him. It was in that moment when a little kid came up to him when he was sitting at the bench. He noticed that the little boy was looking at Zeus and he was smiling, just seeing Zeus jump up and down and run. He says that the little boy turned to look at him and asked him if that was his dog. He turns to look at the kid and he's like, yeah, that's my pet, his name is Zeus. And that's when the little kid says something that shocked him. The little kid said, you know that your dog talks, right? He says that the little kid was so tiny he didn't want to crush his imagination, so he just nodded yes, like, yep, I know that Zeus can talk because, you know, what are you gonna tell a little kid? No, he doesn't talk. That's when the little kid turned around almost like to walk away, still with a smile on his face, and he says, my dog told me that your dog was just like him. At this point, he was like confused, but also very curious. And he tells the little boy, well, how could you know any of this? And the little kid simply just said, well, why don't you ask Zeus? Cool. If he's the type of dog that talks, then he's gonna give you a response. The kid then says, because not all dogs can talk, they're not all like that. The kid turned around and left. He turned back to look at Zeus, and he could tell that Zeus was watching him. Almost like if Zeus knew that they were talking about him. And then when Zeus noticed that he was looking at him, he just kept walking and running like if nothing happened. Oh my god. When they returned home, he said that what that little boy said just stayed in his head. And he was playing around. Obviously, like, it was a little kid. He's not gonna believe that. So in a joking manner, he turns to Zeus and says, can you talk? Immediately, Zeus's attitude, mannerisms changed. He says that Zeus stared into his eyes for like a minute, and then he just turned around. He went walking towards his doggy bed and he just laid on it. Okay, that's cool, that's fine. Oh my god, I'm scared. He was like, what the fuck just happened? Because he says that Zeus is not this like serious of a dog. Like, he's always hyper, he's always jumping. The way that he looked at him, turned around, went to his dog bed and just stayed there, threw him off. However, he was like, okay, whatever, that was weird, but maybe it's just what that kid told me that's making me feel even more weirder. So he simply went to bed and he went to sleep. So again, he ends up falling asleep, and he says that he was deep into his sleep when he got awoken by a sound of something falling in the kitchen. He immediately gets up and with precaution walks towards the kitchen. He turned to see if Zeus was in his doggy bed and he wasn't there, so he didn't know where Zeus was. He thought to himself that maybe Zeus also got woken up and he went to the kitchen to see what was that sound. When he gets to the kitchen, he notices that everything's in its place. There's nothing on the floor. Like, what made that sound? He has no idea. However, the strange thing was that Zeus wasn't in the kitchen either. So he called out for Zeus, and very calmly, Zeus comes out of this like empty bedroom that he has. He says that Zeus looks at him, didn't even get close to him, and just went to lay down on his doggy bed. Almost like if he was someone that Zeus didn't know or that maybe he didn't even care about. Anyway, following day, he goes to work, he gets home, opens the door, and Zeus is not there greeting him like every other day, where he's jumping up and down excited, wanting him to take him to the dog park. Zeus was nowhere to be found. So obviously he was in shock and he calls out to Zeus because at this point he's like, what if he's sick or what if something's going on? So again, Zeus comes out of that empty bedroom, looks at him, and at this point he's trying to get Zeus excited. He gets his leash and he's like, look, you want to go to the dog park? And Zeus looks at him, doesn't get close to him again, and goes and lays down on his doggy bed. To him, he says it was evident that something was happening to Zeus, so he calls a friend who was a veterinarian and he tells him, look, these are the symptoms, he's not coming, he's not excited, and his friend thought that maybe it was because of the age. He didn't believe that it was that because Zeus's energy like switched just overnight. However, he really loved Zeus and wanted Zeus to be healthy, so he did make an appointment to see the veterinarian the following day. That day they didn't go to the dog park, but he did go to sleep just worried about Zeus and hoping that it was nothing serious and that he was going to be fine. As he's laying there thinking about Zeus, he says that he could hear that someone opened the front door, and after that door was opened, it sounded like somebody was walking. He got really scared because he can clearly hear footsteps, inside of his house, and he hadn't fallen asleep yet, so he knew that it was like very real. He wasn't dreaming or anything like that. He said that he had a sword next to his bed, so he just grabbed that sword and quietly came out of his bedroom. The house was dark, but that he could still see that the front door was indeed opened. However, there was nobody in his house and not even the trace of Zeus. He honestly couldn't believe it, but he was like, what if Zeus opened the door and escaped? But he thought that that didn't make any sense because the door was locked, like you physically had to unlock it. As he's walking out of the hallway, he then starts to hear footsteps behind him. He said that he was like in shock, but when he turned around to try to look, he saw like a shadow of somebody just run past him and outside that front door. He screamed for Zeus to help him because he was scared and he didn't know what to do. That thing passed so fast, not even the sword could help him. Zeus never came. He never came. He wasn't in that empty bedroom. He wasn't laying on his dog bed. Zeus never came out. So he immediately closes the front door and locks it up. After locking it, he stepped away from the door, and that is when he started hearing something trying to open that door back up. He said that he noticed when they couldn't open it back up, so then they started kicking the door. That is when he screams like, what do you want? Who are you? What do you want from me? If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. And the thing that he heard back was somebody laughing, almost like laughing at him. And that is when he heard a voice telling him,
Alfredo, you wanted to know if I could talk. The answer is yes. And not just that, I can do so many other things.
And then it banged on the door and he heard when the steps were walking away from his house with a very terrifying laughter. Everything stayed calm. However, he was shaking with fear and he stayed up the entire night until morning time, and that's when he finally got the courage to open that front door. The door was full of scratch marks. Ever since that day, Zeus disappeared and he has never seen him again. However, when he goes to sleep in his bedroom, he swears that he can hear Zeus inside of the house. When he comes out, there's nothing there. Even when he gets home from work, he swears he can hear Zeus's steps, almost like when he would get excited and run to the door, but nothing is there. He doesn't know if maybe it's just like his memories or if Zeus really is coming to visit him from time to time. But what do you guys think?
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then, you want to take it a step further, put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not capping though.
Did any of you have this type of like Barbie head that you can style growing up? If you have one, or maybe your kid has one now, yeah, don't listen to this story. So this happened back in the 80s when this lady was a little girl. She was the only girl in the family. She had 2 older brothers. She mentions how her bedroom was right across from her brother's bedroom, so the doors faced each other. Her brothers did share a room while she had her own bedroom. Also, it's important to mention that the bedrooms didn't have doors. What they would do is put curtains where the door should be. I remember having a curtain on my door once, but that was only because my mom took the door. She took the door to my room. Anyway, she played with this doll head so much that every night when she would go to bed, her mom would pick up that doll head and put it on top of her dresser so that she doesn't play with it all night in bed. So there was one night when the younger brother woke everybody up in that household because he was crying uncontrollably. Obviously, the parents were worried. They ran straight to the bedroom, and when they got there, they asked him what was wrong, why is he crying? And he told them that when he was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, he saw when that Barbie head peeked into his bed. Why did I get chills? The Barbie head peeked into his bedroom from the sister's room. He described it almost as if somebody was holding that Barbie head and just inclined it this way. So I guess like literally, I can't even do the motion. I just scared myself. Anyway, he described it as if like somebody had grabbed that head and inclined it this way so it looked like it was peeking, which obviously is impossible for that doll to do because it would have fallen. It's only like a head. As he's crying, he's like, she was staring at me almost like she knew I was awake, and she peeked into the room. And it was basically impossible for someone to have hidden behind that Barbie to incline her because again, she was up against that dresser. Even if it was a little sister, she would have been visible from his bedroom. And to no one's surprise, the parents did not believe him. His older brother that also slept in that bedroom did not believe him either. However, with time, that older brother started to believe because some weird shit happened to him as well. So there was one night where the older brother couldn't fall asleep and something just told him to look towards his little sister's door. He saw the same thing that his brother claimed to have seen, which is that doll head kind of, inclined looking towards the bedroom. But it wasn't just that. It was not just that. He stared back at her because he wanted to make sure, like, is somebody holding her? Is she really moving? Is it me? And when he is staring at this Barbie's head, he said that the Barbie started making faces at him. He described it as like mocking faces, that like sticking her tongue out at him and doing like silly faces. Bro, that would have scared the I wake up, I turn, I look at my Barbie. The Barbie's like, that's the only thing I could think of. What other faces could she have done? What other faces? That would have scared me. That would have been it. Now that I think of it, that bitch has no arms. You have no arms, bitch. I'm gonna fuck you up. Okay, 34-year-old Letty would have fucked her up, but like 12-year-old Letty would have been dying of a heart attack. He also mentions how her mouth would move in like weird angles, almost as if she was trying to say something to him. And by that point, the little brother had also seen those facial expressions that Barbie was making as well. And of course, the older brother went and told his parents. He wanted to tell them that the little brother was not lying. He also saw that doll moving and making facial expressions, and of course, they didn't believe them. On the contrary, they got in trouble for making these things up. They basically told them, you better not come to us and tell us that Barbie's moving again or you'll be in big trouble. What's the punishment? I get to sleep in the room with you? Okay, bitch, punish me. What's the punishment? You're taking me to sleep in a new home? Take me right now. So the parents didn't believe them until one night where the dad stayed up by himself, and when he was walking down the hallway, he felt as if somebody was behind him. Immediately, he turns around to look, and he could have sworn that he saw something peeking from on top of a dresser. The dad could have sworn that he thought it was that doll head that he saw move. You're a liar, you're making things up, and if you bring this up again, you're gonna be in big trouble, mister. Obviously, it was that moment where it finally scared the dad, where the family decided to get rid of this doll head. So where they lived, the trash people only came on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so they had left the trash and that doll head out there, and it wasn't trash day, so it was just gonna sit out there until the trash came. So while the doll was still outside in the trash, their grandmother came for a visit, and as she was passing by the trash, she saw this like perfectly clean and new doll head on top of the trash can. She pulled it out and asked them why they were going to throw it away, and her son, the dad, didn't want to tell her why, so he just said it was because the daughter didn't want to play with the doll anymore. So the grandmother decided that she was going to take it to her home because she had this bedroom that she called the old doll room, and she basically had a whole collection of dolls. She cleaned that doll head up and put put it inside of that room. And surprise, surprise, after she put that doll head into that bedroom, weird sounds would start coming from that room. The lady that's telling us the story, obviously that was her doll, and she said that she personally never heard any noise in her grandmother's room where that doll was, but her grandmother and her aunt did hear noises coming from there. She explains that her cousins would also say that they would hear weird sounds coming from that room. They would spend the night at the grandmother's home, and while they were sleeping, they could almost hear like plastic bumping into things in that room. However, they were already scared of that room altogether since there's like old dolls all in there, and they did not dare to go in there and figure out what that noise was. With time, the mom of the girl was like, I cannot not tell them why we got rid of that doll. So she did end up telling the grandmother and the aunt why they got rid of the doll, and obviously they were like, oh my god, so it has to be that doll that's making those noises in that room. However, the grandmother decided not to get rid of that doll. She obviously did believe in the paranormal, but she was not about to be scared of it, so she decided that she was going to keep it in her house so that no one else has to deal with this doll. By the way, the grandmother lived by herself in that house, so yeah, that lady was not scared of the doll. That doll ended up staying with her until her final days, and the grandmother passed away. So grandmother passed away and left that house to her aunt, and her aunt first day took all of the grandmother's collection, including that doll head, and basically got rid of everything. She says that the aunt never told anybody what she did with it. They have not seen that doll head ever since. Yeah, that is a crazy fucking story. I feel like I would die if I were to see that Barbie head just like blah, making crazy ass faces at me. But what do you guys think?
Oh yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
This is the original video of the Serbian dancing lady. So according to news articles, this woman was spotted dancing by a hospital. When police showed up, she was nowhere to be found. Another witness said that she was roaming the streets and chasing after cars with a knife. She was also threatening people with a knife. The second half of the video shows her stalking the cameraman. She is also seen threatening him with a knife. This video was filmed back in 2019. And people said that she had mental health issues. No, she was never caught. If you want to learn more about her, check out this video on my YouTube channel. Link in bio.
story. Every time I hear it, gives me the chills, so I want to share it with you too. So this guy says that when he was in school, there was a couple that lived in the same neighborhood and they had a son, and unfortunately their son passed away while he was at school. He says that the lady, the one that lost her son, she was always so nice and everybody knew her in the neighborhood, but after that happened, he hadn't gone over to her house. He does claim that his mom had gone over and the mom would tell him, look, if you ever see her, she might say that her son is still alive, so just go along with it because you don't want to, put her in distress again. So apparently the mom had gone over to the house just to give them her condolences, and the mom was like, oh, he's still here, he's not gone, and that there were altars and that she would be talking to her son in a picture frame, and that basically his bedroom, nothing had moved. To the lady, that her son was still there. So time has passed and the mom came to her son and she's like, hey, you haven't seen her in such a long time, like we should go take her something to eat and just visit for a little bit. He agrees, and of course he remembers, like, if she says he's still here, so we, let's not say anything about that. He says that when he got there, for some reason he felt such a negative vibe, and he said that was weird because when they went in there, they were all having conversation. The lady was talking to his mom and she was like, oh yeah, he's still here, like my son is still here. He noticed that they were adding a plate at the table for the son too, so of course he didn't tell her no, he's not, because like what the fuck, right? So the lady goes to get something from the kitchen and him and his mom were in the living room, and from the living room you could see the hallway that leads to the bedrooms in that lady's home, and him and his mom, they swear that they saw a shadow of like a little boy move in that hallway, to the point where they looked at each other and they're like, what the fuck, like I thought she was here alone. In that moment, the mom, the one that lives there, comes out of the kitchen, and immediately his mom says, is there anybody else here with you? And the lady is like, no, well, just my son. What the fuck? And obviously they didn't want to be like, no the fuck he's not. So the mom and him just look at each other, and the lady continues, she's like, yeah, he's always with me, like he never leaves me alone, he's always going with me everywhere. He said that in the moment he just wished he could just run out the door, but they didn't, just out of respect for her, but they knew that she was home alone because her husband was at work. And that's not even the end of it. He claims that there was another occurrence where the mom and his brother went to this lady's home, and that his brother also saw it. The guy says that he doesn't believe that that's that lady's son because of how heavy the energy is in that home. He feels like she's giving the energy to something that's pretending to be her son. He said that the last time he had gone over, because there was another time he went over to visit her, it got to the point where that house is starting to smell really weird. Like nothing like, spoiled food, or it was just a distinct kind of smell that you just know there's something not right there.